Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Previously we looked at assets and we explained what is an asset, and then we went on to explain the different type of assets, your current asset as well as your non-current assets. So today's lesson is a continuation of our previous lesson, and we are going to be looking at transactions relating to assets. How do we record transactions relating to assets, or how do asset accounts work? So guys, grab your pen and paper and take notes. Let's dive straight to it. So how do asset accounts work? I'm just going to make this as easy as possible for you guys. Number one, assets increase on your debit side and they decrease on your credit side. So what does this mean? This means your debit side is your positive side and your credit side is your negative side. So now let me just explain this to you. Every account or accounting transaction has two sides. There's your credit and then there's your debit side. So depending on the element that you're working with, your credit side can neither be your negative or positive side, and same goes for your debit side. So in this case, we are working with an element known as an asset. So how does that element work? It increases on the debit side and decreases on your credit side. So to demonstrate this, we will have a look at a general ledger, and I will explain further how this works. But just to recap or remind you guys how this works. Assets increase on your debit side and they decrease on your credit side. It is as easy as that. Don't confuse yourself with strong or difficult words that you can't even remember. Increase, decrease, positive, negative, credit side, decrease, debit side, increase. That's it. So let's move on to our general ledger. We're going to use a general ledger to demonstrate the counting the transaction relating to assets. So let me explain this to you guys first. So this is an asset, right? And there's your debit side and there's your credit side. So the reason you see a positive here is because your debit side is the positive side to your assets. And the reason you see a negative here is that your credit side is the negative side to your asset. So what does this mean, guys? Any transaction that is positive will be recorded on this side. Any transaction that is negative will be recorded on the credit side. Just bear that in mind. And credit and debit, they never change. You'll never find debit on this side or credit on this side. No. Your debit side will always be on your left and your credit side will always be on your right. So now let's just look at examples of positive transactions. So let's say we started a business and we decided it's going to be good for the business if we buy or purchase vehicles to the value of 300,000 Rand. So why is this good for the business? Number one, our asset register went from 0 to 300,000 Rand. That's a positive. Therefore, we record that on our debit side, because from 0 to 300,000 rand is a good thing. Therefore, anything good or positive goes to your debit side. Another transaction would be, let's say we acquire land and buildings. So land and buildings, right, to the value of 1 million, right? That's good for our business. So our business now has 2 assets, or 3, but land and buildings in this case, we're gonna look at it as 1 asset. It now has 2 assets. So from 0, it now has 2 assets to the value of 1 million plus 300,000 rand will give you 1.3 million. So that's why this is recorded on your debit side. Both transactions are positive transactions. So let's now look at transactions that fall on the negative side. For example, let's say purchasing these 2 assets required that we take money out of our bank account. So bank, about 1.3 million, right? So let's focus on this side now. Forget about this side, your debit side. Focus on this side now. So the reason you are seeing bank on this side is because money left the bank account. A value of 1.3 million left our bank account. So there is a negative. So for example, if you had a balance of 2 million and you buy something to the value of 1.3 million, that means your account went from 2 million to minus 1.3 million. So that is what is happening here. Since our bank is an asset and the value of our asset decreased by 1.3 million, we are going to record that on our credit side because that is a negative transaction to our asset. Get what I'm saying? So these were positive transactions to our assets because they went from 0 to hero. But now this guy is going from 2 million to 700 rand or 700,000 rand, which is a negative transaction. So that is why this is on our credit side. I hope you guys can understand. Mind you, now these are 2 different types of assets. This side we have our long-term assets, also known as our non-current assets, because they are useful for a period longer than 12 months. And then on this side we have our current asset, which is our bank. So if ever you forget this, guys, just go back to our notes, go back to our previous video and recap or refresh your memory and come back. So I hope you guys understand. So just to add here, if we were to add more assets that would actually, or transactions that would actually be negative to our assets, that would be accumulated depreciation. Accumulated depreciation. Right, accumulated depreciation. What else? This side, it would be your debtors. So let's say we sold stuff to our customers on credit and we gained a whole lot of debtors. What else? Let's say we purchased more equipment. That's all positive. That's all positive. And on this side we can think of something, bad debts. Let's say we had to write off some bad debts. So these are all the types of assets that you need to be able to understand how they work and understand how they are, how transactions that relate to these assets are recorded. But one thing for sure, guys, any transaction that is a negative goes on your credit side, and any transaction that is a negative will go on your debit side. So let's remove all of this and actually do something or do an example that is going to help us memorize or help us understand how this works. So let's just move this to the side. Try and make space for this information. Right, so using this information, let's record our transactions. Right, we'll just change this asset to an actual asset, that is bank, and do this example. So let's speak about your opening balances. You can have two kinds of balances, especially when it comes to bank. You can have a negative balance or a positive balance. So how do you record such a transaction? If it's a negative, it goes on your negative side. That's correct. If it's positive, it goes on your positive side. So what do we have here? Opening balance to the value of 16,000 Rand. It's not a negative. So we're gonna record it on our debit side. Balance brought down, or maybe opening balance, depending on how you wanna put it, to the value of 16,000 Rand. We all agree, right? Number two, we have deposits to the value of 25,000. So we all know, guys, if you own a bank account, any amount that is deposited to your account will always reflect as a positive. So deposits are good for our business, so they go on our debit side. And then number three, we have our income from sales. Income from sales, right? That's money coming into the business, so that must go away on your positive side. It's a good transaction. Income from sales. So this is just an example, guys, of transactions that go on your debit side. And then next we get our purchases. Another example, if you guys own a bank account, you know whenever you purchase using your bank card, it's not good for your bank. If it's chocolate, it's good for you, but it's not good for your bank. So purchases will go on your credit side. Purchases to the value of 14,000 Rand. And last, you get your expenses. Expenses, guys, include electricity, your insurance, stationery, etc. As long as it's you paying money. Hey guys, this is not nice. This is not. I hope your bank accounts bring in more money than this one does. Right, so expenses will always go on your credit side to the value of 7,600. And you must remember this way. Incomes, they're good for the business, they go on your debit side. Expenses, bad for the business, they go on your credit side. So this is a good example, guys, for those of you who were not familiar with how an asset works. So using this general ledger, or should I say bank general ledger, we were able to record these transactions. If you guys have any questions or any suggestions, please just write it down there on the comment section, and I promise to try and answer or attend to all. So guys, I hope you understand. I hope this video was helpful. With this video, I think we've completed our lesson on assets, and we should be moving on to our liabilities. So just a quick recap. How do assets work, guys? How do they work? They increase on the debit side and decrease on your credit side. That's it. Your debit side, positive side. Your credit side, negative side. It is as easy as that. Guys, thank you very much for your time. I hope this video is helpful, and I hope to see you guys on our next video. Enjoy. Ta-da!